All right. Dorsey apologizes. Can you scroll up a little, Sean?
Sure. Oh,
All
yeah,
right.
there you go.
So he says there's a lot of conversation around the Twitter files. Here's my take and thoughts on how to fix the issues identified. I'll start with the principles I've come to believe based on everything I've learned and experienced through my past actions at Twitter as a co-founder and lead. 1, social media must be resilient to corporate and government control. 2, only the original author may remove content they produce. 3, moderation is best implemented by algorithmic choice. He then goes into like more of a deep explanation on this and says like, oh, you shouldn't be attacking the people who work for me. You should just be attacking me, which is a good thing to say, but it's not really possible. I mean, like everybody kind of needs to be accountable for their participation. I think it's good that he is owning it to a degree. And then if you scroll down more, you can see he posts a link to Nostr. Now, Minds has been working on Nostr for about almost a year now, and it's basically a censorship-resistant protocol that means that when you sign up to Minds, you can basically download your private key in your settings. And if you ever want to leave Minds, you can go and upload that private key into other apps on Nostr, and it's basically like a portable and sovereign identity. So your like content will show up. It's not locked into Minds. Your social graph and followers will be portable. And so the fact that he is like discussing this is a good thing. And I think he's kind of been red pilled with regard to Bitcoin, with regard to censorship resistance. I think that we don't even know the full extent of his involvement with a lot of the stuff that's transpired over the last couple of years. And I think that it's going to keep getting worse, particularly as the COVID Twitter files come out. He made one comment in his longer apology, or longer, I don't know if I would call it an apology. It's more of kind of like a proposal. But he said like he wishes the Twitter files had been done more like WikiLeaks style, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, so yeah, what do you think, Sean?
I don't know. I mean, do you think it's a little bit too late? I mean, like we saw he was kind of missing at the helm as the CEO. He was in a secluded area, and obviously the people were running the company, and I understand totally like being like the CEO that's like, hey, don't attack my people, attack me. But he was kind of absent. It's kind of what I'm seeing. At least that's my takeaway. And these people, even though they may not be with Twitter anymore, they're going to go to other tech platforms, and we're kind of repeat the same stuff. So yeah,
I don't forgive yet, but I think that he needed to apologize and own it.
yeah,
He also said in his longer note that basically an activist stockholder came in, and that he couldn't basically, he lost he not only did he lose control, like just of like kind of rogue moderators, he lost control governance wise in the company through the stock. So he, probably was bringing this kind of stuff up in board meetings. And, he said that he, like, as soon as that happened, he was planning his exit, which, okay, well, thanks for telling everyone now. Good to know that, like, this activist investor came in, with ideology, and you were deciding to leave. And meanwhile, like, kind of the internet was on fire and Twitter was on fire, and you just didn't say anything until now.
yeah.
So, the damage is kind of done. And so, it's kind of like when someone betrays you and then they do ultimately see the right way to go, and then they do that, it's like, your friendship is never necessarily restored,
Yeah.
but it's better than the alternative.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
do you think like so one of the questions that came up last night in that Twitter Spaces with Elon was like, you know, is Elon doing the right thing? Because he's kind of going opposite of what Jack did and what Zuckerberg does. Like he's out in the public, he's talking to people, he's giving like real time reactions. He's, putting a lot of spicy content up. I mean, do you think that's a better approach?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. You know, but like, I think that we need to see Elon like integrate with Nostr and like do this, because if he doesn't, we're gonna just have more of the same kind of arbitrariness, and that wouldn't even be Elon's fault. It's just like the nature of building a centralized social network.
Yeah.
Though that's just comes with the territory, and that's why, Jack, if you scroll up, I mean, what he's saying, which is, a lot of this is how Minds is already. I mean, we're already integrated with Nostr, so we already kind of abide by some of these principles. But he says only the original author may remove content they produce.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
So, that is basically saying that you need censorship resistance,
Yeah.
and that algorithmic choice, as opposed to censorship, makes, let people decide what they want to see, as opposed to, banning stuff that some people may want to see.
That's not illegal,
That's
right?
not
Like
illegal.
right. Because number two, it's like, okay, I agree with that, but I think there obviously is nuance there where, if you put up, you know, horrible things about children or whatever the case, like
Well,
that
Jack's
stuff.
point is that actually it makes it easier for law enforcement
Yeah, that's
if
true.
you if it has to stay up.
That's true.
Though I do, yeah. I mean, I think that that's where things get really hairy.
Yeah.
Like if people put CP up, obviously you don't want that staying up.
Right.
However, you do kind of need a record of it in order to um, potentially track them down, or to make sure that that content does. And that's what, we talked yesterday, I think, about the tool, the open source tool that Facebook just released, which is like this kind of database that you can check content against for like terrorism and child porn. Shouldn't have said that, probably going to get dinged.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah, so anyway, I think that it's bittersweet.
Do you think he would have done this 180 if Elon didn't take it over and things were status quo?
Well, he couldn't.
Right.
That's what he's saying, is that he couldn't.
Okay.
And
He
I
just
think that the way, yeah, he just wasn't being transparent with everybody. He was kind of like, he knew what was going on behind the scenes. He was kind of secretly planning his exit, not telling anybody about what was going on as Twitter is kind of burning.
Mhm.
And, now he's coming out with this. So I don't know. Yeah.
So when he said he couldn't, why couldn't he?
You can, if you want to click it.
Sure.
So,
Because he sold his shares.
scroll down. So hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, just keep scrolling. I don't know. There's one part in here where he discusses The activist investor. Maybe it's near the top.
I can do a control F.
Yeah, just do activist.
Activist. Actually, I cannot. Here we go. Activist. There you go.
There you go. So the Twitter, when I let it, in the Twitter of today, did not mean any of these principles. This is my fault alone, as I completely gave up pushing for them when an activist entered our stock in 2020. I no longer had hope of achieving any of it as a public company, with no defense mechanisms, lack of dual class shares being a key one. I planned my exit at that moment, knowing I was no longer right for the company.
Right.
So there it
Right.
is.
Right. But I mean, like, so like he sold the shares, right? He sold a ton of shares.
No, he still owns stock. He still owns
still
stock.
does.
Yeah.
But he left the board, what was it, a couple years ago, right?
No, he left the board
Oh.
like a couple months ago.
Oh, okay. So I had the timeline wrong. I could have sworn he left the board earlier.
No.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So he was kind of like a powerless person on the board, but and he, his rationale was probably, I don't want to tank, because he could have like come out with a huge public statement on like how Twitter's totally screwed, internally, politics, activists, but as CEO, he just is a little bit of a conflict of interest, especially when you're like a major share, like, because you have to act in the fiduciary interest of the company when you're on the board and when you're CEO. So you can't just like, I mean, you could, and it really actually does speak to sort of how he behaved, because he was like posting about
Elon kind of is.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah,
it is. And I the interesting thing about that is that it's counterintuitive, but transparency is what makes a social network trustworthy and popular. So like, even if you're talking shit about your own company, that's actually, you could argue that's what users want.
That's our new sound effect board coming soon.
No, that's just my battery. Luckily I got there in time. So yeah, I mean, whistleblowing your own company arguably brings more users to you. And I think he, that's where he made the mistake. He wasn't willing to take that risk.
Yeah. Or he didn't want to lose the people. I think that's kind of what Elon didn't care about losing, more of the ideological driven people.
Right.
And Jack, obviously, the 300 people went to him in Vijaya before, when they didn't ban Trump initially.
Right.
I think he just was worried about, I mean, if I had to guess, that's a pretty, it's concerning if 300 of your employees are threatening to quit.
It is. Yeah, exactly. And they probably, and that's the most important thing about what Elon has proven, which is kind of rippling through Silicon Valley now, which is that most companies can actually function and, arguably even operate better with 75% less people. And Jack was probably sitting there like, oh, like, I'm going to destroy the company. Everyone's going to leave. We need all these people. Also, he's probably like, thinking too personally about like letting a ton of people leaving. He probably, just felt bad about that. And so that really speaks to the, just like the culture.
Yeah.
And they were just sort of in the status quo of like a hugely bloated company with, almost doing like a social service. Like social services. It's like basically you're entitled to this job, and we're basically just going to subsidize everybody's everything, regardless of how healthy it is for these. So when you talk about fiduciary duty to the shareholders, it's like, well, okay, you can argue that you didn't want to come out with all of this while you were CEO because it might have hurt the company PR wise, but it's also acting against the fiduciary duty by having wine and on tap and just like spending millions of dollars flagrantly on, personnel that you don't need, and all of these like pro basketball box seats, like all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and that also speaks to like, if a good CEO or whoever, like whoever, whatever manager in the company actually understands the process and the labor needs and what actually needs to get done versus like what is fat, what can be trimmed off, uh they can make smarter decisions. It just seems again to me like he just wasn't paying attention. So 300 people coming to him, he's probably freaking out just because he doesn't understand. Oh, he thinks, oh man, like we're gonna have huge problems, or site's gonna go down or whatever. But if you actually understand like what their roles were, and you can make that decision as to, is that needed? So
well,
obviously a lot of them weren't. So
all right. So let's quickly talk about Apple. So who knows if this is actually going to work out, but it appears that they're looking to add support for sideloading in alternate app stores in Europe, which, is due to European regulations. So what it
so
says is, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, like, side loading, what does that mean?
It just means like being able to, install apps out of the app store or like alternative operating systems.
Okay.
Because right now with iPhones, you can only install apps from the App Store.
Right.
On Android, there's multiple app stores. You can even install apps directly yourself. Everything is not like monopolized by Google. So, because Android is actually an open source operating system.
Right.
So,
You can download them from third-party sites. You can do, you can, instead of having to
right.
go through Google Play, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that,
Yeah.
that's really important for keeping the market open and healthy. And people have been really critical of Apple for not allowing that. So this would potentially be a huge deal. So we'll see.
So you said this was due to the European Union. So I know the European Union's been going after Google very heavily in the past. There's been many lawsuits because of the way they rank businesses, and how that's affected businesses in the UK. Is that kind of similar what's happening here?
Yeah, I think it's similar stuff.
So the
So
UK is
I
going to
still don't
liberate
trust Google. Or I still don't trust Apple. This doesn't mean that I would go and get an iPhone, but it's definitely good for people who have iPhones to have more options. And this is assuming that this even happens. Because like, for instance, right now, and you've seen Elon complaining about this, like we obviously complain about it, but Apple takes 30% fee off like all transactions. So they're basically grabbing 30% of like every company's revenue on the App Store, which is just insane.
It's insane. What did you think of Elon's decision to pass that fee off to the customers, though?
I mean,
So like Twitter Blue is $8 a month, but on iPhones now it's $11 a month.
I mean, it's definitely interesting. Like
Yeah.
I think that sure. Why wouldn't you do that? I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's like obviously there's an argument there, right? Like, because like when we do the live events, like on some of the ticket sites, you'll have the option to absorb the fees from the tickets or pass that along to the customers. And
Yeah, but if the
it's
customer has
always
the option to go to the website,
true.
what's the issue?
Well, the customers with iPhones don't have the option, though.
Yeah, they do. Just go to the website.
Oh, you can go to the Twitter Blue website
Yeah,
to buy.
just
Oh,
on the website.
oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, I only saw it through the app. That's the only way to get Blue right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
I
only
thought
through
that
the app.
I thought the announcement was that you can get it for 11. Look it up. What does it say?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that you could buy it for cheaper on the web.
Good question. because the blue was only uh oh
Yeah,
yeah.
on web for 8 and 11 on iOS.
Yeah. So
So
on
if
your iPhone you could go.
to the browser.
Oh, okay, well, good to know. Okay, because
Yeah.
initially blue was only allowed through the app. You couldn't get it unless you went through the app.
Right.
So, oh, interesting. Well, there you go. I
Mhm.
learned something. There you go. Save money for the people with iPhones. Don't get it through the app.
Mhm. But a lot of people will just be lazy and
I know.
don't care.
You
So,
get the double click and show your face to the phone, right? Yeah.
all right, cool. So let's talk about the fusion stuff. Have you heard of this?
So I saw you shared it the other day. Nuclear fusion's been something I've been interested in for a long, long time. Because of how how it would be save us so much. It's like a technology that we definitely need. Um, but I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's game changer. If it
It totally is.
like this seems like it should be, primary focus for, and like shit, the government did it. The government achieved this. Good for
That's a good
them.
point. Oh my.
So,
Did
you
this?
know,
Oh yeah, I
this
gotta.
this this could go down as Biden's top accomplishment.
So did he actually? So that was going to be my question. So did he?
Doesn't
No.
matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Doesn't matter.
The point is that it happened under him.
Yeah,
Just
that's a good point.
in the same way that Trump would take credit for everything that happened under him, regardless of his involvement, Biden will do the same thing. So, for people who don't know, like current nuclear is fission, and there's all this waste, and fusion is, kind of gets the energy benefit without the waste. And so, if this can scale out, like literally the world has changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this would completely change the world if this can scale. So, um, it's amazing. I mean, fusion has been kind of this mystery for forever, and like I was actually listening to a good clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson explain it, and we've had fusion for a long time, but in the form of a bomb.
Mhm.
And so what fusion reactors are essentially like, it's the same technology as a fusion bomb, but it's controlled. So there were two types of like the bomb we dropped in World War II was a fission bomb. And so there was like nuclear fallout from that, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but then the hydrogen bomb, which I don't know if it's been dropped in a war. I would,
I could find out.
yeah, can we find that out? But anyway, there is not nuclear waste with fusion. And so a fusion reactor is basically the same underlying technology as a fusion bomb, but it's just, yeah, it's controlled, and you can kind of have valves and, all different kinds of components that can harness the power in an organized way.
It has not.
It
Hydrogen
has
bombs.
not.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was a kind of a pretty fascinating.
But and also too,
Yeah.
like with fusion, it's completely like you can continuously make it, right? Like it's spacing on the word, but it's renewable. It's completely renewable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, completely renewable.
Yeah, that's huge. That's
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean the whole world should join in and make this happen.
Well, I said whoever came up with this technology first will own the world. Like that's the scary part of it. Like, obviously the nuclear bombs, how powerful was the US after that? Obviously, Um, but having like this type of technology, whoever gets to it first and can scale it, um, they'll never have to worry about money again.
Yeah, I mean, not only them, a lot of everybody.
Yeah.
this will completely change the economy.
Yep.
If this goes through, because I mean,
Elon Musk, now the electric cars make sense,
exactly.
like things like that
And the grids can be fueled by this, and so
Yep.
everybody's electricity bills and energy bills go down.
Go down. Yep.
So, I mean, damn, this is it's I wonder if Elon has commented on this. Because this seems like the type of thing that we need to really gather the minds around to invest in. And I don't know how conclusive. I mean, it seems conclusive. Like they probably need to keep replicating it and whatnot. But
yeah, because Elon in September slam fusions, and he said future of energy is wind and solar. So yeah, it'd be interesting. That was in September though. That could change. Obviously could change, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see. If he comments on this.
All right, good stuff. Anything you want to touch on, Sean?
No, I'm good. We got we have some more guests coming up, some exciting people. But yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out.
Cheers.